You know, sometimes like when you get ready to really dive into something, it ends up being way more than you thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
That's us today with Hinglish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Forget just like mixing Hindi and English.
Right.
We're talking about like a mashup of cultures and history and even like technology.
Yeah.
All wrapped up in the way people actually speak.
Exactly.
We've got some seriously cool research lined up for you today.
Yeah.
So get ready to decode Hinglish.
I am so ready.
I love it.
I'm very excited about this one.
Me too. Me too.
What's got me like completely hooked is how Hinglish makes us rethink what a language even is.
Okay.
You know, it's not just about textbooks and rules. It's about how people blend languages in their everyday lives and like create this whole other thing.
Okay, so for those of us already neck deep in this stuff, let's break it down.
Okay.
What makes Hinglish more than just throwing a year or a chach into an English sentence?
Yeah, you're right. It's way more layered than just like borrowing a word here or there.
Right.
I think one article even called it a macaronic hybrid, which I know it sounds like some gourmet pasta or something.
Right.
But it basically means that you're like blending these languages together to create this tapestry.
Okay.
So imagine like switching from Hindi to English in like the middle of your sentence.
Yeah.
Sometimes even in the middle of a word.
Wow.
And that's Hinglish. And I think it just speaks to how complex the identities are of the speakers.
Yeah.
That you can be rooted in multiple cultures at once.
It's like that feeling when you seamlessly switch between languages without even realizing you're doing it.
Right.
But hold on, before we journey too far into today's Hinglish, I've got to ask, didn't this whole language blending thing start way back in the day?
You're about to blow my mind.
Like, wasn't there a term for it?
Yes.
Like Kichari Boli or something like that.
Kichti-boli.
Okay. Am I making that up or is that?
No, you are so onto something. Because Kichti-boli, like, perfectly captures this idea that mixing languages in this region is not new.
Right.
Like, think about it for centuries. Languages like Sanskrit, Persian, Arabic.
Right.
They've all kind of woven themselves into like the fabric of the Hindustani languages.
Yeah.
Which is really the foundation of what we're talking about today with modern day Hinglish.
Okay.
So we're talking about a legacy here.
Yeah.
A linguistic heritage.
Wow.
That goes way beyond just like borrowing a few English words.
Yeah, it's like this ancestral recipe.
Right.
Passed down and tweaked with each generation.
I love that.
Okay, so I can already see how deep this rabbit hole goes.
Yeah.
And speaking of history.
Okay.
We can't talk about this without addressing the elephant in the room.
Let's do it.
British colonialism.
Uh-huh.
It had to have played a role, right?
Absolutely. Our sources take us back to the 18th century when English was like the language of power. It shaped everything.
Yeah.
From administration to education.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sadly, it's a recurring theme throughout history.
It is.
The language of the colonizer often becomes the language of opportunity.
Right.
Even if it's intertwined with very complicated feelings.
Totally. And the research like highlights this perfectly with figures like Raja Rammohan Roy, who was a social reformer who actually championed English education.
Interesting.
Because he saw it as this tool for Indians to access knowledge and break free from these colonial constraints, even though it was the language of their colonizers.
It's fascinating.
Talk about irony, right?
Yeah, it's like this unintended ripple effect, advocating for one thing and then this whole other unexpected outcome.
Exactly.
And to think this was happening at the precise moment that English was going global.
Right, at the same time.
Wow.
Fast forward to the 20th century, English is becoming the language to know.
Yeah.
Especially in a newly independent India.
Right.
It represents progress opportunity. And you combine that with this pre-existing influence of Hindi languages, boom, you have the perfect breeding ground for Hinglish.
Wow.
It's amazing.
So we've got this fascinating historical backdrop.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think what really blows my mind is that Hinglish isn't just some like relic of the past.
Right.
It's evolving right before our eyes.
It really is. And it's easy to think, oh, it's just a few English words thrown into Hindi.
Right.
But the research is saying, no, it's way more intricate than that.
Okay.
Think about it. Words are being adapted, directly translated, even blended in a way that it creates something totally unique.
It's like the language itself is a testament to this fusion.
Exactly.
It's not just about the words themselves.
Yeah.
It's how they're interacting with Hindi grammar,
Right.
pronunciation, even cultural context.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, and this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Remember those terms we touched upon earlier?
Yeah.
Code switching and code mixing.
Yes.
They're key to understanding how Hinglish works. It's magic.
I love that you brought those up because they're so important.
Okay, because...
Refresh my memory.
Okay.
We talked about code switching being that ability to effortlessly glide between languages.
Right.
But how does code mixing fit into all of this?
Okay, so if code switching is like changing hats,
Okay.
code mixing is like sewing two hats together to create this whole other style.
Okay.
You're blending elements of these different languages within the same sentence.
Wow.
Sometimes even the same word.
Wow.
And I think Hinglish kind of dances between those two.
Yeah.
It's constantly pushing these boundaries.
That is a seriously cool way to visualize it.
Thanks.
You know, for something so seemingly effortless and everyday, there's this whole other level of like complexity happening beneath the surface.
And this is where it gets really cool because now researchers are using computers to actually analyze how Hinglish functions.
I know. Hold on. It's pretty amazing.
And computers are decoding Hinglish.
Yes. So they're training these machines to recognize the nuances of grammar, pronunciation.
Wow.
Even to translate between Hinglish and other languages.
That's incredible.
It's really incredible.
So technology is being used to like unlock the secrets of this hybrid language.
Yeah, it's like giving these computers a whole new way to see the world.
That is so cool.
Through the lens of Hinglish.
Wow. Okay, so we've gone from colonial influence to the cutting edge of technology here.
We have come a long way.
We have, but let's bring it back down to earth for a second.
Okay.
Just how widespread is Hinglish today?
Okay, hold on tight.
Okay.
Because the numbers are actually pretty astounding.
Okay.
We're talking hundreds of millions of speakers globally.
Wow.
And forget just like casual conversations.
Yeah.
Hinglish is everywhere.
Okay.
Advertising music, even Bollywood.
Oh, yeah.
Which, let's be honest, wouldn't be the same without those catchy Hinglish movie titles.
They're iconic. Like they perfectly capture the vibe.
It just works.
Yeah.
And there's another really fascinating layer to this. Romanized Hindi.
Okay.
It's like the digital shorthand for Hinglish.
Okay.
So you write Hindi words using the Roman alphabet.
Okay, I'm with you.
You see it in YouTube comments, social media, online articles.
Constantly.
It's taken the internet by storm.
Oh, 100%.
It's
everywhere.
I can practically see it now,
wow.
Scrolling through my feed.
Right.
But it makes you wonder, how did Romanized Hindi become so ubiquitous?
It's a good question, and that's where our trusty tech comes in again.
Okay.
Think about it. When you start typing a Hindi word in Roman script on your phone, what happens?
Google's like, hey, I got you.
Google's our friend.
You're right.
And suggests the Hindi word written in that same script.
Yeah.
So it's like this subtle nudge towards this Romanized form, making it almost like incredibly easy to write in Hinglish.
So technology isn't just reflecting how we use language.
It's actively shaping it.
It is.
Wow.
It's wild.
And that brings up another question for me.
Okay.
With all this rapid evolution, this widespread use, what does the future hold for Hinglish?
Right.
Is it a passing trend, or are we witnessing the birth of something much bigger?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Right.
Is this a fad, or is Hinglish here to stay?
Yeah.
And from what I'm seeing in these articles, it's not just surviving.
Okay.
It's absolutely thriving.
Yeah.
We're talking about a language that's challenging norms.
Okay.
Even pushing back against the role of Sanskritized Hindi.
Hold on, back up for a second.
Okay.
For those of us who don't speak fluent linguists,
sure.
What exactly is Sanskritized Hindi?
You're right. I sometimes get lost in the weeds a little bit.
Yeah.
So think of Sanskritized Hindi as this more formal version of Hindi that you might hear like in government or literature. It's a little closer to its Sanskrit roots.
Okay.
With longer words and a more complex grammatical structure.
Gotcha.
Now, what's fascinating is that Hinglish, even with its more casual vibe, is starting to challenge that dominance, even popping up in like some government contexts, which I think is really interesting.
So we're talking about a language that's gone from the streets to the steps of Parliament.
It's pretty amazing.
That's seriously impressive.
It really makes you think, like, what does it even mean for a language to be official in today's world? Like, can a hybrid language like this, so deeply rooted in cultural context and constantly evolving, even find its place within those traditional structures?
Right.
Or will it force us to rethink those structures altogether?
It's a good question.
It's a big one.
It really is. It's like English isn't just reflecting how we communicate.
Right.
It's challenging us to reconsider how we think about language itself.
Exactly. And when you consider the sheer number of English speakers,
Yeah.
its influence on technology,
Right.
its presence in these like more formal settings.
Yeah.
It's hard to just brush it off as just a trend.
Right.
It feels like we're witnessing a linguistic evolution in action.
English is a force to be reckoned with, that's for sure.
For sure.
So as we wrap up our deep dive today,
Okay.
what's the one thing you really want our listeners to walk away with?
Ooh, that's a good question.
The big takeaway here.
I think for me, it's that language is this like living, breathing thing. It's always evolving, shifting, adapting to the world around it.
Yeah.
And I think Hinglish is the embodiment of that.
Okay.
It throws out the rule book and shows us like the creativity and the resilience of human communication at its finest.
So beautifully said. And for you listening, the next time you encounter that unmistakable blend of Hindi and English,
Yes.
don't just let it wash over you.
Right.
Think about the forces that created it, the communities that it represents, and the questions that it raises about the very nature of language itself.
I love that.
Who knows, maybe English is just the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
Maybe we're on the cusp of a whole new ways of hybrid languages.
Yeah.
Each one a testament to the power of cultural exchange and that boundless capacity that humans have to connect.
I'm here for it.
Me too, me too.